Sure you don't want Monopoly money. Look at it's so colorful. You still like colors, right? Come on, just take this. I could give you thousands of dollars in Monopoly money. Recently, I've been thinking about the time when my kids get to the age where they ask daddy for money. I've never been good at making money, so I want to try to learn how to make money. To do that, I look back at the story of Solomon, who was the richest person who ever lived. And I found 10 principles that I think are brilliant. And I really wanted to share them with you. So let's go back in time, about 3,000 years to Israel and the kingdom of Solomon. When Solomon became king, it was his job to build the temple of God. Now, this temple of God could not be some little structure. It could not be something ordinary. This is the God of the universe we're talking about, and he needed a place for his glory. And I found it interesting that the first thing he did before he really had anything was he gave a huge offering to God. They didn't have a temple. They went up to on the tops of mountains, and he took 1,000 offerings and offered 1,000 offerings to God. It's kind of this huge show of, Lord, I am devoted, I am committed. And you know, Proverbs 16:3 says, commit your works to the Lord and your plans will be established. You know who wrote that? Solomon. Well, it worked. God actually came to him in a dream and told him, whatever you want, you can have it. And I'm going to give it to you. And Solomon thought about it. He said, Lord, what I really want is to be able to lead your great people. Because you have given me this huge, great people to lead. And I need to do it well. I have this desire to serve others. So please, Lord, grant me wisdom so that I could lead well. And that's the second thing. He wanted to lead well. He wanted wisdom. He wanted to help others. And God said, you know, you could have asked for wealth, and I would have given it to you. You could have asked for long life. You could have asked for the death of your enemies. But since you asked for wisdom, I'm going to give you everything else. You're going to be the wealthiest person of all time. And you are going to be the wisest leader of all time as well. So now Solomon needs to get into business because he has to develop resources in order to build the temple. Where he goes first is Egypt, his southern neighbor. Now they have the best chariots and the best horses in the entire world. And they're right next door. And to the north of him are the Hittites and the Syrian kings. And they kind of want those horses and those chariots. So Solomon sees an opportunity, and he becomes a middleman. He's not producing the best of anything right now. The Egyptians are. What he does is he becomes a middleman, he gets their best products, and he sells it over here. Now, he's not wanting to be a horse trader. He's not wanting to be a chariot trader. He's not wanting to be an arms dealer, which basically became what he was. But he needed to make money, and he needed to use somebody else's expertise and product in order to do that. So he became a middleman. And that's the third step, or the third principle that I found. Now for number 4. This is where he started the process of building the temple, but not building the temple because he still had to gather resources, but he gathered his own resources as much as he possibly could. If you go down to the south of Israel, you find these copper mines, these huge copper mines, and it said that those are Solomon's copper mines. They're about 3,000 years old, taking them back to the time of Solomon. And this is where Solomon would take copper out of the ground and create bronze. It said he used these bronze instruments and, plates and silverware and all kinds of stuff for the temple. And it said they had more than they could possibly count. This leads us into the 5th thing that he did. And he basically used temp workers. In the land of Israel, there are people who are not Israelites. They didn't have land. They were just there for a little while. They might be going somewhere else. They have their loyalty to another country. But he still used them, and there was about 150, 1,000 of them that he employed in the mines. And then 1 in 40, he made them as supervisors, so they would make sure to be effective. And the principle here is people that weren't going to be with him for a very long time, people who are temporary, he didn't waste training on them. He used them for unskilled labor so that when he lost them, it wasn't a huge loss. Now, the 6th thing that I found, he used his father's connections with the king of Tyre to the north. And the king of Tyre was this, huge trading port, and they had the cedars of Lebanon, and they had all kinds of wealth and some of the most skilled craftsmen in the entire world. And they're right next door. So what he did is he got his resources, grain and cattle and sheep, that's what he had, got a lot of it, and he sent it to the king in Tyre, because everybody needs food. And he says, here you go. What I want from you are skilled workers to come and train my people. He wanted the most skilled people in the world to train his Israelites, his craftsmen, so that he could then have some of the best trained workers in the entire world. And he used his resources that he'd made to trade for that. And in that, he developed a partnership with the king of Tyre as well that would be incredibly lucrative. So there were two there. He made connections. He used his connections because everybody knows somebody. You may not know the people you know, but you know somebody. He used his connections to create something that was profitable. And then he trained, he got the best training in the world for his skilled workers. Number 8 brings in that partnership. So he imported the best of the best that he couldn't make himself. The cedars of Lebanon, they didn't exist anywhere else in the world. So his friend from Tyre, he brought in the cedars of Lebanon from Tyre. And then he got with that king of Tyre as well, built a port at the south end of Israel. And the king of Tyre and he went together to Ophir, where they had the best gold in the entire world. So they went together, traded, I imagine, wood and bronze, copper, whatever, and traded that for gold. And they had this trading relationship with Ophir, whereas they went every 3 years, and every 3 years a ship would return with all of these resources, this gold, best gold in the world, from Ophir. This is the gold that he used for the temple. He wanted the best resources. He didn't skimp. Not just any gold, he wanted the best gold, the gold of Ophir. Now, once he got those resources, he paid his workers incredibly well. After the Queen of Sheba, who lived near Ophir, heard of him, she came to see what he was doing, what he was up to, if he was really as good as everybody said that he was. And when she got there, she's like, wow, this guy's even better. And she was really impressed. And she said, it is a lucky person who gets to work for Solomon. His workers were treated incredibly well. So treat your workers well. That's the 9th thing. The 10th principle is something I think a lot of people miss. Solomon built God's house first. He built the temple first. That was his project. That was his focus. Even though he was a king, before he built his own palace, he built God's temple. He finished God's temple. And then he worried about his own house. So build the business first. Build the project first. Build God, what God has for you, first. Focus on that before you focus on building up yourself. Allow, as investors would say, allow your assets that you develop to pay for the luxuries. So allow your business to pay for your house, your car, all that kind of stuff. Build your business first, invest where it matters, and let the other stuff come later. 10 principles, all from 2 Chronicles 1 through 3. Give them a read, see if you see the same stuff. I thought it was amazing. Thank you. Bye.